Shyrel Swoopes has a take about a white player being dirty now.
Shyrel Swoopes, back in the news, getting pushback from fans, calling out Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, calling out Stephanie White. Oh, I don't know about coaching decisions, blah, 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 blah.
Angel Reese racially shaded Caitlin Clark earlier in the year in a social media post.
It's happening again, and this time, it's louder than ever.
The WNBA legend Shyrel Swoopes, during her June 24th episode of the Women's Hoop Show, quote, "I'm not making any excuses. I do agree that she did that because the refs were allowing that to happen the entire game."
Just 2 minutes ago, WNBA legend Shyrel Swoopes reignited the firestorm, once again going after Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever teammate, Sophie Cunningham.
Shyrel Swoopes took the latter stance during, that doesn't shock me. That wasn't a physical play, it was a dirty play.
Her words, "She's a dirty player." This isn't the first time Swoopes has taken aim, but this shot wasn't subtle, it was personal. It's no secret the league has been buzzing with controversy surrounding Clark.
Her mindset is right in with those retards that were trying to get Sophie Cunningham banned from the WNBA because somebody had the unmitigated gall to step up for Caitlin Clark.
But now the spotlight has shifted toward the woman standing up for her. And guess what? The media, the fans, and the league's old guard are all weighing in, and they're not holding back.
Insert Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham. Team doesn't look flat anymore. Team doesn't look slow anymore. Team doesn't look discombobulated anymore. Team suddenly starts playing defense at a higher rate, more aggressive level.
From fiery podcast clips to viral fan reactions, Sophie's takedown of J.C. Sheldon sent shockwaves across the basketball world. Was it defense of a teammate, or was it crossing the line? And Shyrel Swoopes? She just made it crystal clear.
Sophie Cunningham is like the second biggest star in the WNBA. Her jerseys have sold out. Everybody loves her. And it's her very first season with Fever. And she's like the second biggest player in the WNBA now.
In her eyes, Sophie isn't a hero. She's a problem. So buckle up, because in today's video, we're breaking it all down.
Lovingly hugging. And the reason I'm showing this is because Angel Reese gave Caitlin Clark the clothesline from hell last year.
Swoopes' comments, Cunningham's role, and what this means for Caitlin Clark and the future of the Indiana Fever. Let's get into it.
I think Cunningham could take everybody on that bench. Someone was like, "Oh, well, man, it's a good thing that Mariana Mabry didn't stand up." And I'm like, why? So she could get her ass kicked too? Like what? Like, I desperately want to know what she was saying. She put her in a clinch, as you could tell. And then when Sheldon realized that there's nothing she can do, someone said that they thought Cunningham was going, "What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now?" Now Caitlin Clark is super popular, and now Sophie Cunningham is super popular for defending her. Gosh, please let it be.
The drama began when Indiana Fever's Sophie Cunningham sent a clear message late in the game against the Connecticut Sun, a physical message that WNBA fans couldn't ignore.
Sophie Cunningham gives a take foul, a very hard one. She straight up tackled J.C. Sheldon.
With less than a minute left on the clock, Cunningham threw J.C. Sheldon to the ground in what many saw as retaliation. Why?
Too seriously and potentially putting Sheldon at risk of injury. What was Sheldon doing with Caitlin Clark, poking her in the eye?
She's going nowhere near the ball. She's nowhere near the ball. She just grabbed her in the eye. She just eye gouged her. She just clawed her.
Because earlier in the game, Sheldon had poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. The move by Cunningham didn't just rattle Sheldon, it sent the entire league into a frenzy.
You were a little confused with what Stephanie White was doing. Let me tell you what Stephanie White was doing. Let's think back to game one. Team came out flat. Team came out discombobulated. Team came out slow. Team came out lethargic. Team was down 15 points.
On one side, fans praised Sophie for doing what no one else on the Fever had done, standing up for their star, Caitlin Clark. On the other, critics claimed she had crossed a line, labeling her actions dangerous and unnecessary. But what really blew the situation wide open was what happened next.
I know. But I did have a question, though, with Indiana, right? Because even though the starters weren't in, like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull they've been in the league for a while.
WNBA legend Shyrel Swoopes took to her podcast and used the platform to publicly call out Cunningham. She didn't hold back.
You actually had players who Bree Hall, why wasn't she in that game per se? If you're still trying to figure out who's going to make the team, who you're going to cut. So I was a little confused with what Steph was doing, but anyway, it is what it is.
Shyrel Swoopes has a take about a white player being dirty now.
According to Swoopes, Sophie's move wasn't just physical, it was dirty. I'm not making any excuses for Sophie's foul, Swoopes said. She didn't go for the ball at all. That wasn't a physical play, it was a dirty play.
And people will say, well, that's why they brought Sophie to Indiana. They brought Sophie to be the enforcer. Well, what was she enforcing in that moment? I don't know.
For many, this was more than just a hot take. This was a former WNBA icon accusing a current player of crossing a moral line, of endangering another player without just cause. And the timing of the comment mattered.
Now, keep in mind, this is Shyrel Swoopes hating ass. Lovingly hugging Angel Reese. And the reason I'm showing this is because Angel Reese gave Caitlin Clark the clothesline from hell last year.
Swoopes didn't criticize Angel Reese when she leveled Clark. She didn't criticize Kennedy Carter's blindside hit. But now when a white player retaliated to defend Clark, she had a lot to say. That discrepancy didn't go unnoticed by fans. Some even pointed to Swoopes' past controversies, particularly her history of criticizing white players and her dismissal from a coaching role over alleged mistreatment of players, to question her credibility and intent.
Shyrel Swoopes is at it again. And by at it again, I mean she's running her mouth. This time she's coming after Sophie Cunningham.
Yet despite the backlash, Swoopes doubled down. She questioned what Sophie Cunningham was really enforcing in that moment. From her perspective, there was no justification, but that's where this story starts to split, because many believe that Cunningham did exactly what she was supposed to do.
We all know Sophie Cunningham sent a pretty loud message. By the way, a message that wouldn't have been needed had the WNBA referees done their job during that Connecticut Sun-Indiana Fever game, instead of just being like, nah, nothing to see here. We'll just let everybody that assaulted Caitlin Clark just stay in this game.
Protect her teammate when the referees wouldn't. The WNBA had already received heavy criticism for failing to protect Caitlin Clark from increasingly aggressive physical play. Sophie's move, while controversial, was viewed by some as the necessary escalation that the Fever desperately needed.
Of the lady Sheldon, who's very attractive herself and very accomplished as a basketball player, it was perceived as protecting Caitlin Clark. And anyone that wants to protect Caitlin Clark is great in the eyes of WNBA fans.
As soon as Shyrel Swoopes criticized Sophie Cunningham, the backlash was immediate and intense. Fans weren't just disagreeing with her, they were accusing her of hypocrisy. Many pointed out that Swoopes had previously shown no outrage when Caitlin Clark was on the receiving end of far more dangerous hits.
That wasn't a physical play, it was a dirty play. You grabbed her around the neck and you took her down too seriously and potentially putting Sheldon at risk of injury. What was Sheldon doing with Caitlin Clark, poking her in the eye?
When Angel Reese slammed into Clark last season, or when Kennedy Carter blindsided her just weeks ago, Swoopes was either silent or subtly supportive. Now, with Cunningham finally stepping up in Clark's defense, Swoopes suddenly decided to draw the line. That inconsistency set fans off.
All of the race lesbians are going to be super mad at her. They're going to be super mad. That is her right there taking Jackie Sheldon into a clinch. Imagine I can't get over it. You're Sheldon and you're going to step to a girl who's got a black belt in Taekwondo. Like, you deserve to have both your cheeks kicked, man. You know, huge interest in Iowa and Missouri and Indiana, Kansas and Utah, Texas as well, Louisiana and Bama. Those are the most interest.
On social media and across multiple podcasts, viewers began connecting the dots. They noticed how Swoopes was quick to label Sophie Cunningham a dirty player, but stayed quiet or even supportive when it came to physicality from players like Angel Reese, who had a history of going after Clark both on and off the court.
Now, keep in mind, this is Shyrel Swoopes hating ass. lovingly hugging Angel Reese. And the reason I'm showing this is because Angel Reese gave Caitlin Clark the clothesline from hell last year.
In fact, Swoopes had once even appeared in photos celebrating with Reese, despite her controversial actions. To many fans, it looked like Swoopes had chosen sides, not just in terms of teams, but in terms of which players she defends and which ones she attacks.
The WNBA legend Shyrel Swoopes, during her June 24th episode of the Women's Hoop Show, quote, "I'm not making any excuses. I do agree that she did that because the refs were allowing that to happen the entire game. That last play, Sophie, she didn't go for the ball at all."
The criticism wasn't just about basketball anymore. It had become about bias, fairness, and what many saw as a double standard within WNBA commentary. The accusations didn't stop there. Fans also resurfaced old reports from Swoopes' coaching career, in particular her firing from Loyola University Chicago after allegations that she mistreated white players.
Just like they used to do with Michael Jordan, players on the Bulls would send that message. No, you don't mess with the king. You don't. When Gretzky played hockey, they had people on the team that sent messages. You don't mess with the king. By and large, that hadn't happened until the other night when Sophie Cunningham gave J.C. Sheldon the Steven Seagal Aikido move at the end of the game.
That history, combined with her current comments about Cunningham, only fueled the narrative that her criticism wasn't entirely about basketball fundamentals, but about personal bias. Some even argued that Swoopes was out of touch with the modern game. They suggested she failed to understand the unique pressure Caitlin Clark faces, not just as a top rookie, but as the league's biggest draw and most targeted player.
She did all that and got a lot of views. I mean, she was very popular, but one takedown in one game. That's why you come to play with the Fever. See, you come to play with the Fever because, number one, you're going to play on national television every game. That helps your brand.
They argued that Cunningham was doing what needed to be done, defending a franchise star when no one else had. And that's where public opinion began to shift. What initially looked like a reckless foul quickly became a moment of deeper meaning, especially when you consider how long Caitlin Clark has been taking hits with little to no response from her teammates. Sophie Cunningham did what the officials wouldn't. She policed the game herself, and for many fans, that's exactly what Indiana needed.
At some point, you just say, man, maybe we need to move on because all of this unluckiness, I can't tolerate it being the HBIC, as New York would say, for the 90s babies. You guys know what I'm talking about.
What started as a controversial takedown quickly became a career-defining moment for Sophie Cunningham. Before that physical play against J.C. Sheldon, most casual WNBA fans barely knew her name.
And I hope that something changes. But unless something changes, the Fever need to make a decision. They need to make a couple of decisions. They need to bench Caitlin Clark. They need to choose. First of all, they need to choose Stephanie White or Caitlin Clark.
Sure, hardcore followers of the league recognized her from her time with the Phoenix Mercury. Some may have known her for her fiery style of play, but for the general public, Sophie was mostly known for her social media presence.
Sophie Cunningham is like the second biggest star in the WNBA.
That's the referees not protecting
them, just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
Posting glamour shots, fashion photos, and beach pictures that painted her as more of a lifestyle influencer than a gritty basketball player. That perception changed instantly. After Sophie defended Caitlin Clark in that game, the narrative around her shifted dramatically. The highlight clip of her taking Sheldon down went viral within hours.
Shyrel Swoopes took the latter stance during that doesn't shock me. That wasn't a physical play, it was a dirty play.
Some called it dirty, others called it necessary, but everyone agreed. Sophie had entered the spotlight, and the numbers proved it.
Her jerseys have sold out. Everybody loves her. And it's her very first season with Fever, and she's like the second biggest player in the WNBA now.
Her jersey sales skyrocketed. surpassing even Caitlin Clark's for a time.
Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of Sophie Cunningham. Her jersey is the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA because her jersey surpassed the all-time woman, Caitlin Clark. The most popular woman ever in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, got her jersey surpassed by Sophie Cunningham.
That's right, the same Caitlin Clark who had been setting WNBA records all season. Sophie's jersey became the #1 seller in the league, completely sold out across online stores.
See, when Sophie Cunningham came to Indiana, I had gone and seen one Fever game last year from courtside. It was against Phoenix. Brittany Griner was on Phoenix, and this girl named Sophie Cunningham was on Phoenix. I'm like, whoa, she's hot. Why? Because Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark.
Why? Because fans love a protector. They love someone who's willing to do what others won't. And most importantly, they love someone who's not afraid to back up their teammate when things get physical.
She did all of these Instagrams. She did all of this stuff. And next thing you know, it all didn't matter. It didn't matter. I mean, I'm looking at her Instagram now. She's on the beach half naked.
Suddenly, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just the Instagram girl or the pretty player off the bench. She was a symbol of toughness, loyalty, and attitude. She became the Fever's enforcer, a role many felt the team desperately needed with Caitlin Clark constantly targeted. Even mainstream media and sports personalities started weighing in. Shows that previously never mentioned Cunningham began dissecting her play.
All of the race lesbians are going to be super mad at her. They're going to be super mad. That is her right there taking Jackie Sheldon into a clinch. Imagine I can't get over it. You're Sheldon and you're going to step to a girl who's got a black belt in Taekwondo. Like, you deserve to have both your cheeks kicked, man.
I mean, occasionally you have something go down that's physical in the NBA, and that's fine. It's every other day that somebody's getting cremated on a basketball court. Sophie Cunningham has come out and called it out, and of course, the other night's incident between Sophie Cunningham and J.C. Sheldon, where Cunningham fully embraced her enforcer role for this team, that is a byproduct of the referees not having done their jobs.
One commentator admitted that, just days before the incident, he wouldn't have recognized her if she knocked on his door. Now, she's one of the most talked about players in the WNBA.
He's an editor. He's a Christian. He's all these guys. Hey, look, on Monday, I wouldn't have known Sophie Cunningham if she'd knocked on my front door. Now I know she filled in as a high school kicker, and she's one of the best female basketball players.
Old stories about her began to resurface. Her being a black belt in karate at age 6, her time as a high school football kicker, her days as a homecoming queen. These weren't just fun facts anymore. They became part of the growing mythos around Sophie Cunningham. The image was forming, tough, athletic, unapologetic, and now fiercely loyal. And while some critics still labeled her play as reckless or aggressive, there was a growing consensus
that she had her moment. 591,000 followers on Instagram. That's right. Now people are recognizing, like our Clay Travis, man, she's hot as hell. People are now saying, wait a second, give me more. Here, she takes her clothes off again.
Every great team needs a player like her, the kind of player who's not afraid to risk a technical foul or suspension to make a point. The kind of player who makes opponents think twice before throwing a cheap shot at their star. For the Indiana Fever, this moment may have changed everything. Up until that game, the team had been criticized for lacking chemistry, toughness, and unity. Caitlin Clark was often left to fend for herself, absorbing hits while teammates stood by. But Sophie's takedown shifted that perception. It told the rest of the league, if you go after Clark, someone's going to answer.
Now Caitlin Clark is super popular, and now Sophie Cunningham is super popular for defending her.
That kind of message matters, not just for fans, but for the players inside that locker room. It builds trust, it builds respect, and it builds identity, something the Fever have been desperately trying to establish in this new era built around Caitlin Clark.
I do agree that she did that because the refs were allowing that to happen the entire game.
Sophie Cunningham's star may have risen unexpectedly, but make no mistake, it didn't rise by accident. She saw what was happening, she acted, and now the basketball world is paying attention.
She did all that and got a lot of views. I mean, she was very popular. But one takedown in one game, that's why you come to play with the Fever. See, you come to play with the Fever because, number one, you're going to play on national television every game. That helps your brand.
Sophie Cunningham may not have been on anyone's radar a few weeks ago, but now she's at the center of one of the WNBA's biggest storylines. And whether you think her takedown was dirty or justified, one thing's clear: she stood up when no one else did. As for Shyrel Swoopes, her words have sparked a wave of backlash, exposing what many believe is a double standard in how players are judged based on who they are, not just what they do. But the real story here isn't just about a foul.
You come to play with the Fever because you're playing with Caitlin Clark. You become friends with one of the most powerful, popular athletes in America. But then there's always that moment. And for Sophie Cunningham, that moment occurred the other day with a takedown, a grab. It was perceived that she was protecting Clark. Wasn't really that.
It's about how one moment of action changed how an entire team is perceived and how the league responds to physicality, loyalty, and pressure under the spotlight. What happens next? Will Sophie face consequences? Will Shyrel Swoopes continue to speak out? And most importantly, how will Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever respond in their next game? We'll be watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next big update. And drop a comment below. Do you think Sophie Cunningham went too far, or was she just doing what needed to be done? Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.